Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Teach, Sit, Repeat. My name is Dylan.
And my name is Hayden.
We're back, Hayden, with another episode.
We are.
I always say that when I'm not sure how to continue.
Yeah, I'm
after
excited.
the first bit. I'm excited too. And I'm going to start off with one thing. Welcome if you are a new listener, because I'm not being dramatic. It has actually doubled in the last 2 or 3 weeks, the amount of people who are listening to this. So thank you so much for coming along for the ride. A lot of you guys coming from Instagram. We're going to touch on that in a second. But firstly, I just want to start off with how your week's been, Hayden. Bit of a catch up. We've both been in school, obviously. Mm-hmm. You had something you wanted to say about pupils?
Yeah, so kind of outside of school, I guess. But I've noticed.
Oh, I don't want to hear about it then. Sorry.
It's school related.
It's a podcast,
related, right? But obviously we've been in the game for 10 years now. And when we started, we both started in year 4. Mm-hmm. And I am starting to see more and more when I go out and about now, because obviously I live fairly close to where we've worked all this time. Old pupils who are just adults now, and it freaks me out because in my head I'm still 23. I've just started teaching. Like, it's only been a couple of years. They can't be old yet. They probably still look like they used to look. They may be like, an inch taller. No, they're just full on adults. And I was in a shop the other day just buying some bits for my never-ending bathroom project.
Oh, that bathroom project is
still going.
Probably people who were listening 2 months ago might have heard you talk about.
Yeah, that same one. Yeah,
the bathroom which is 2 meters by 2 meters.
Yeah. Still not finished. That one. The one that's still not finished. The one that's there's nothing in there right now.
Right, the one that we're really quickly trying to record this podcast.
Yeah.
Because there's a Tyler coming round, and this podcast studio is obviously just the other side of a work site. So
exactly that.
Right,
okay. I don't know why we rented the studio right next to a work site. That happens to be my house.
This tiny third bedroom is just awful.
But anyway, I was buying some bits for that, and the I say the kid, the man behind the counter that served me. I was just thinking, I know you.
Yeah,
I know, and I was like, "Oh my god, I taught you 9 years ago."
Did you mention it to him?
No, I didn't say that. Usually I would, but he didn't look like. I think you can tell, can't you, when they sort of look at you and double take to be like, "Oh, I know that person," and he was just like totally in work zone.
Yeah.
And I thought, I'm not going to say anything because I didn't teach him that much. Like, he was in my year group, but maybe for like once a week, like a carousel sort of thing. And I was like, oh my god, I feel old.
Well, 10 years from their point of view to you probably won't look too much different, obviously. No. Whereas 10 years for us, it's insane when we see these like children to adults.
Yeah.
That teenage year gap where we miss unbelievable
I know.
amounts of change. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Have you met anyone yet, like out in a pub?
Only that time that we went out, and that person was working behind the pub, behind the bar.
So not being able to serve alcohol, not quite 18 yet, but was doing like little jobs.
We were like, hey, we talked.
Yeah, that was crazy. But I've not yet had that either, where I've been just gone to a pub for a drink,
and they're also
just at the pub because I think now is the time where in year 4 they're 8 years old, aren't they? 8 turning 9. So now is the point where
10 years
this
on,
year
18,
they're turning. They'll have turned 18.
Well, half the problem is we don't go to pubs. In fact, we don't have time to do anything.
We've perfectly timed having children and not going to the pub anymore with when our ex-pupils go to the pub.
Exactly
and I think that's just nature telling you something. So don't worry anymore, lads. Just stay at home. Well, kind of linked to that, I suppose. This is completely nothing to do with school.
Oh, so you're allowed though.
Yeah, I'm allowed to say that because I am the host, the anchor. Rory, my son, is 1 as of recording this tomorrow. So this comes out on Monday. Rory will be 1 on Saturday.
Can you wrap that?
Can I rap this podcast episode?
No, can you rap what you just said?
Oh,
Rory, my son, is 1.
Right, go on.
You started rhyming. I know you because you're normally when I give you this kind of challenge, you kind of go off on one, and I was hoping.
No, because I'm in a reflective mood, Hayden.
No, fair enough.
I'm not in a very angsty, rappy mood.
Yeah,
right?
no, you wouldn't do that.
The only rap I'm thinking of is rapping his presents up,
Oh.
which he will not remember. There is a part of me, when I'm going to rush home after this to get everything ready.
There you go.
I just he won't know anything. But we've gotten some bits. We're having family over tomorrow. We're going to the zoo on Sunday with mates and that.
Are you having one of those absolutely mad like Instagram parties where they spend $7,000 on some huge place with like massive balloon arches?
No.
One.
Well, I wanted to touch on this because I've justified the stuff we have done. We've not gone remotely over the top like that. No. Lawrence bought some.
Really for you to decide, but okay.
Lawrence bought some like balloons to make like a little arch thing.
Okay.
There's like going to be a 1 balloon. We're obviously going to wrap everything up, set it all out for him in the morning.
Cake?
There's a cake on the way. He's going to do a cake smash. We'll do a little photo shoot of us doing a cake smash. Yeah. So we're doing all this stuff. And I thought, it is, do you know what? I've really come around to that idea of, I would be very cynical 10 years ago. And I'd be like, what are you doing? Oh my God, it's so stupid. He's 1, you can't do anything.
Yeah.
Actually, no, it's for us, isn't it? It's for the parents. Because then you take the pictures, the memories, like he can look back on it and see what's happened. And also from our point of view, it'll be a nice day with him. We'll enjoy it. And it is for us as well as for him. And I think it'd be really, really nice.
The picture, he won't remember it But he will at some point look back at those pictures and be like, oh, they really love me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's what you want, is to look back and be like, oh, they really celebrated my first birthday because they love me.
And what's that worth? Like a few £100.
Yeah. Are there any Instagram trends for birthdays that you haven't done, or have you just done them all?
No. I don't. See, the thing is, this is something, I was going to make a joke now, but this is genuine. No, this is genuine now. We will maybe talk about this, because I still can't get my head around people who work in education and teaching who post pictures of their kids online. And I know you've come to the conclusion, you and Lauren, that that's fine. And thousands of people do. And I'm not saying it's inherently a bad thing.
Sure.
But having gone through like all of the prevent training and like the very stringent, like, just don't do this though, because obviously it's the right thing to do and it's safe, and just err on the side of caution. I'm not trying to be trying to be horrible or anything. No. I genuinely, I'm just like, I really want to get into the minds of people who work in this industry, who then are like, I'll just put them online, it's fine.
What, like as in like our babies?
Yeah.
I just, it's so funny because I'm so the opposite.
I know.
I'm like, my honest opinion, this is going to sound really horrible, but this is the way I justify it.
No, it's fine,
right?
Go. I've just called you, I've just essentially called you.
But I'm not saying this to you, right? But my thought is, because I do this with loads of things, like when people are in shops, being like, oh no, I don't want to get a contactless card. My thought is, who do you think you are? Nobody cares.
So do you think all that prevent training is nonsense?
I don't think
all the
it
safety,
has anything to do with this. I don't think it has nothing.
No, all the safety stuff online where it's like, don't post your kid online.
No, this is what I find funny, right? So you'll post pictures and people will post pictures of like emojis over their face. Yeah. I'm like, what do you think is it just...
No one's got his face.
Is it just this part that matters then?
Yeah.
That is it?
Yeah. The identification. Because no one, if my baby was like, if my baby got a picture online, you could identify your child online because you'd be like, oh, I can trace that to your account, to Lauren's account. I know whose baby this is. It's this baby. And then if I know where Hayden lives, I know where this baby lives. And all that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, strangers online don't need to see his face. That's my opinion, where I'm just like, there's no need for that to be anywhere. And with AI and with, such ease of manipulation these days, I don't want his face to be on the internet willy-nilly. Yeah. I don't want to be providing that. Like his face might find its way on the internet somehow in the background of a picture when he's gone to soft play. I can't control that, obviously. Yeah. But I can control physically taking a picture of my child's face, putting it online, and pretty much saying, here you go, anyone. Like, we've got over 11,000, nearly 12,000 followers on Instagram now. And I'm just like, I don't know, probably, I don't know personally, 11.5 thousand of them.
Yeah.
I just don't want my baby's face there.
I get it. Your point are like totally logical. I'm not even going to like pretend that those things aren't valid. But I just can't, to me, it's like, I don't know. You know what my brain's like? I'm always like probabilities, right? I'm always working on that. So I'm like, do you know what? I could also walk down the street and get struck by lightning and hit by a car at the same time. I just think it's so ridiculously unlikely that anything could possibly happen because we're nobody. Yeah. Like people with millions of followers make vlogs of their kids. Yeah. And it's like, and I just look at them like, well, who am I? They can do it, but I'm too
I spoke to Lauren about this the other day because she's into this kind of stuff. You're Lauren, I think it's the same, where that you just get following like a family on Instagram or on YouTube classic. And stuff. And she watches this one family on YouTube, and it does have young children who like are in their school uniform.
Is Zoe Sugg by any chance?
No. But I think that's one of them. It's someone else, young children in uniform. Yeah. And the video is that the dad and the mum surprised them with a trip to Disneyland. Yeah. And they go away, and it means they're missing Friday at school. So that's one thing, which straight away as teachers were like, oh God, we know that's bad, but also I don't mind when kids go on holiday and stuff. So that's already like a grey area. But there's just kids just talking. They're in their school uniform on a YouTube video, thousands of views. I'm just like, what are you doing? That's obviously awful. You've got your school uniform here with a logo. Like just everything we've been taught as teachers, like that's a terrible thing to do. And then we're there as teachers watching it, taking it in like, this is a nice video. But also, wait, what? Isn't this like the exact opposite of what we say is the way to be safe online with young children? Yeah. With young children,
now you're doing it right, but I just want to ask, like, what do you think would happen genuinely? What do you think could happen, like, by posting Rory? Not on our podcast one, for example, because that is different. Like that is tens of thousands. I get it. That's a different level to like your personal private Instagram, because you don't even do it on your personal private Instagram.
That's probably, I could probably sit and justify it doing it. But I've just come on the side of, I just might as well
don't
not.
Do it at all.
Yeah, because even I reckon on everyone's personal account, if you went through who follows you on your personal account, I reckon you'd find some people who you're like, I don't actually know you. Yeah. I don't actually know who you are. Like I know of you. You're in the area. You're a friend of a friend of a friend, and I don't know what you're into. Yeah. And for me, you've seen what AI can do now. Yeah. You've seen what like you can generate from a picture, and I'm just like. Not yet.
Yeah,
I'm just
that's what I think. I'm just like, well, I'm online. No one's AI. My open up.
Yeah, but,
now.
but
no one's doing it. Like what? Like,
maybe not to you. You're just a weird middle-aged man. Like, but there are weird people out there, Hayden. There are weird people out there with children and stuff, and it's just I just again. There are thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who do it, and it's obviously fine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, from a point of view of a teacher, having sat through hours of training on this stuff, I find it counterintuitive to then just do it.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
Maybe I've been indoctrinated by the.
No, not I don't think you've been indoctrinated. I think you've always been a very. You've always been like this. Like I don't think you need to have a baby for me to work out that would be your opinion. Genuinely, because I just know what your brain's like.
No one was shocked when we said we're not uploading.
Yeah, genuinely, because that is very you, and I don't think it's a bad thing at all.
But I don't think what you're doing is inherently bad.
No.
The only point I'm making is I would love to get into the mind, and I have done here a bit, to be fair, of a teacher who sat through all that training and then decided to kind of almost go against it. Or at least just say, well, I understand all those risks, but I'm choosing this. I was very interested in that jump.
But funny enough, because the training to me is like...
Is it specifically different?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just one step away, where it's like when your teenage daughter at 13 years old is like a prime suspect for, just all that horrible... I don't want to get into it, all horrible side of life that we all know exists, right? It's like you maybe don't post pictures of them all over the internet in their uniform. Yeah. Like
uniform's more for tracking and stuff.
That's what I mean. Like it's just easy. It's easy to find them when they're away from you. Whereas but in just general pictures, I'm like, okay, I can walk down the street and the same people can see me with my child. Like I don't really care if people see me and pictures of my child. My child is one of billions. Like nobody cares. Honestly, my honest thought is nobody cares.
Okay.
Nobody cares. That is my honest thought.
Yeah, maybe I'm cynical. I'd love to hear what people think, genuinely, because we follow people who do both. And I think it's enough widespread on both sides where there's clearly not an obvious answer.
No, yeah.
Else it would be preference. way more one way. So I'm very interested.
It depends how much you think the risk is. As simple as that, isn't it? If you think the risk is risky enough, then do not do it. It's like, okay, just don't do it then. Like objectively, it's just, regardless of our opinions, your child is at less risk than mine. By definition.
Okay.
Because I am posting pictures, and like you said, those things do exist. I just don't think they exist enough for me to be remotely worried about it. Like, and I'll share pictures on my Instagram to my 300, not even that, like 200 and something.
Yeah, and it's closed, and you do, you are in control at least of that, aren't you?
But we shared a picture. You shared a picture on our podcast
before the whole blow up, hey dude.
But it doesn't bother me. I'm not worried
that's
about
that. Fine. The other day, I think I posted a meme, very popular meme at the minute, of this boy who's like a youth pastor, who's a child, who's on like Ellen DeGeneres or something, an old show. And it's the meme where he's going, yes, and he's doing like a sermon basically.
Right.
And he must be like 4, this kid.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I made a meme out of it. Yeah. And I didn't think twice about it. And I was just like, I made a silly meme. It was when you're doing your marking, you get to the last 3 books and you remember they're off.
Okay.
And you're like, yes, because you're going home early. And I posted it. And only honestly, like 4 hours later when I saw the notifications coming through, I was like, oh, should I have posted that?
Yeah, I have just posted someone else's kid.
Like, I know they agreed to go on television. And I suppose my point here is, that's why I don't do it for Rory. Because I've seen this meme online. I've gone, well, the parents and the child decided it was fine to go on TV. So it's fair game. I can make a meme out of it. It's nothing. It's safe. And I'm like, oh, wait. I don't think I'd like that the other way around.
No.
And then I started thinking of a million things of, where is my line? If we got invited on a TV show and they wanted to film a little bit where it's just with the family and Rory's playing,
exactly.
Would I say no to that? And I'm like,
that's so funny.
I probably would be okay with that.
Yeah, despite
that's
that being
millions.
1,000 times worse than anything you've discussed so far.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I'm like, I really had like an inner monologue, like argument with myself almost of, what is acceptable? Yeah. And that's why I wanted to ask that question, basically. I don't want you to think I'm just attacking you, because I'm not. I really want to get to the bottom of it.
But I've always found it funny. I'm glad you brought it up, because I've always wanted to say without being offensive to you. Like,
no, it's not offensive.
Why do you think like it matters, sort of thing?
Yeah. Interesting.
Good
well, that wasn't remotely planned. That was really interesting.
Forgot we're doing a pod.
Yeah, let's we'll finish on some nice comments in the catch up, because I just wanted to reflect really quickly, about the fact that honestly, in the last week or two, we have literally gained, I think maybe in the month we've gained about 4,000 or 5,000 followers on our Instagram. Insane.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
And that is translating to listeners to the podcast. And one thing that has been unreal for the last 2 weeks have been the constant ream of people getting in touch with us, either on a comment on a reel or via a message, much more detailed DM, where people are basically saying, thank you for talking about this.
No, it's nice.
And it's lovely, because we sometimes, I worry, and I know you do, that we can, when we really get our teeth into an issue, for example, talking about, basically being a teacher and how it's unmanageable.
Yeah.
I did a reel where it was me talking about how I'm scared I'm going to quit. And I just explained how I love teaching, but I think I'm heading towards quitting this job. That's where I think the road is taking me.
Yeah.
We've spoken about just in general, you spoke about the fact you've got a young family now and you don't understand it. It seems to be incompatible.
Yeah.
And there's been so many people, when we put it out there, we didn't know we'd get this response, but so many people who are saying, oh my God, thank you. Thank you for talking about this. This is exactly how I feel. I hate that I think I'm going to quit teaching. I love teaching. It's what I'm good at. It's what I've become a professional at. But everything around it is so crap that I'm scared I'm going to quit as well.
It seems to be a bit more of a taboo than we realise, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because we've always talked quite openly about these things, and I think we maybe forget, because we do create our own echo chamber. We say this on the podcast a lot. Dylan and I tend to agree on most things, and we do try actively to sort of challenge each other now a bit more. But yeah, maybe it just made us realise that actually a lot of people don't talk about it at all, and it is kind of just refreshing to just chat about it, and we'll do it out in the open, so that hopefully you guys can engage with that conversation.
We will continue to do it because it's really refreshing to see people saying, yes, I agree. And 95%, 98% of the comments were like that.
Yeah,
they were really
lovely.
positive. And there was one reel, I think you wanted to mention something about, it was a reel basically saying, what is the benefit to being an amazing teacher?
Here. It was a really good one. When you posted it, I messaged you, didn't I? I said, oh, that's provocative.
Right, yeah.
Because it basically said, there's no reward.
Sure.
So the reel that Dylan posted, if you've not seen it, is something. It says something along the lines at the beginning, so I've got it playing right now. That there's zero reward for being a good teacher.
Yeah. What do you actually get? Like in any other walk of life, if you're good at something, what's the reward for being good?
Amazing teachers are punished with extra workload and responsibility with zero reward is what you put. Yeah. And I thought that's going to get some people's backs up, I reckon. And it was interesting because most of the comments, despite what I thought, did actually agree and just kind of make sarky comments like, oh, what you get is extra workload and the toughest class next year.
Yeah.
But there were a few comments that I didn't talk to you about it because I wanted to just
throw them at me.
I want to throw them because I want to get your raw opinion.
Yeah, okay, let's do it.
I want to see if you if it gets your back up or whether you just have an actual response to it.
Because I'm not being funny as well, genuinely. I've got the Instagram and I miss 75% of the comments at the minute.
Yeah,
because there's just too much going on.
Because you're not you often respond or like them. You haven't done some of these.
Yeah.
So here's one that I thought was interesting.
Okay.
Really short answer. Someone just put, the answer is intrinsic satisfaction. That's what you get.
I mean, that's true, right? But I think you can get intrinsic satisfaction by not doing 4 hours of planning at the weekend and just teaching a lesson nicely to the kids. I feel like I get intrinsic satisfaction and I don't necessarily go above and beyond and have loads of extra responsibility in the classroom. I think, do you know what? I understand what that person's saying. I don't want to completely rip apart what they're saying because it is true. If you're a good teacher, you get more out of the kids and you do probably get more satisfaction. But I think there has to be a point where that's not a good enough answer, is it? That's not really a justification for squeezing pay for 15 years.
Yeah.
It's not really a justification to look at someone who's doing really well and say to them, oh, well, actually, you can do more now because you're getting more out of the kids. You're more valuable, so you can do more. So sorry, go back to that bit you just said. I'm more valuable. Oh, can I get like a monetary or can I? No. We just want you to do more stuff, please, because you're good at it.
Yeah, the word valuable is it's broken the second you say that. Isn't it? It's like, do you know what that means?
Yeah, so that
valuable.
Yeah, that's my response to that one.
There was quite a lot. I'm just going to read out a couple more because it'll be the same response. But there was quite a theme. Like someone else said, self gratification. That's typically why people want to be teachers. That whole toxic culture of don't do it then if you don't want to. You do it because you love it.
It is honestly double-edged sword that where there are two answers which both completely rinse that outlook.
Yeah.
Answer one is, like I always say, people are leaving. That what you're saying isn't a solution. People are leaving because it's awful. Well, just leave then. Do you want to stop people leaving?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's not what we want. And the other edge of that sword is, let's just completely dismantle that. You can go into a job because you want to and because you can get lots of out of it and because it's amazing for society, which we all seem to agree, by the way.
Yeah.
Like these jobs where we're like, this is great for society and you get a lot out of it, but it's one of the least well-paying jobs compared to being a quantity surveyor.
No, Dylan, because you're missing the point, actually. You're completely wrong because this person said teachers aren't financially driven or they wouldn't be teachers. They've got you there, haven't they?
Yeah, they've got me there. Got me there because you know what? The reason I became a teacher isn't to put food on my plate and pay my energy bills and my mortgage, which has skyrocketed.
Yeah.
I'm about to refix my mortgage in the next few weeks,
Yeah,
and my remortgage payments are going to go up by about £200 to £300. So do you know what? Fair play. My love for children pays for that.
I've got one more for you. Okay, and this is the only one that I thought it's just quite interesting. I think you might have even replied to this. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh no, you didn't. Someone else did.
Cool.
It says, so it starts with, I think you get a genuine sense of fulfillment. So
True.
That bit. Then it says, most kids also recognise and appreciate an excellent teacher. Generally speaking, your life in the classroom is also easier and more enjoyable because there are fewer behaviour problems and more engagement. So if you're a good teacher, it's saying that actually your life is better because you don't get as many behaviour issues. Yeah. The kids respect you more as a result. So I thought that was an interesting one. What do you kind of say to that?
Do you know what? I think that's actually right. I think that's correct because if you know what. Cutting it down to what it was, I was asking what the good teachers get, right? And that is something they get. I was hinting at, actual reward, actual like monetary value, time out to do something. Yeah. But you know what? That is absolutely right because if you're a better teacher, you do tend to have more control over your class. Yeah. But I'm going to preface this massively because it doesn't matter how good a teacher you are. Some of it is out of your control. It is not as simple as to say the teacher's in charge of behaviour. Done. It's not like that. We all know that because we could swap with another teacher and go into their class and have a much harder time with behaviour.
100%. Well, we've done it. Yeah. Surely you've had. I've had at least one class in my whole career where I felt like I was totally out of control and their behaviour was like unreal. I couldn't control them, and I've started to think, oh my god, am I not a very good teacher? Yeah. And it was out of my control. I just could not control them. And
no one could have. And that's where that comment, although I get what they're saying and there is truth to it, that it is, if you're better, it is easier. Doesn't mean it's necessarily easy though. And I don't want anyone to sit here and watch this and think, and listen to this rather, and think, oh God, I struggle with behaviour. Is that because I'm a bad teacher?
I'm a bad teacher.
No, not at all. Because anyone would struggle with a certain class. So let's just dismantle that direct correlation that we're trying to build there. A loose correlation.
But I get it.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Okay. Well,
but no one really addressed the point though. No one actually addressed the point of should there be some financial gain though? If you're literally better as a teacher, because however that metric is measured, I don't know. Yeah. Then there is no, basically what we were trying to say is there's no incentive. No. Is there? There's nothing that's like, hey, if you kind of like meet these targets and do this, actually, there's this incentive. You don't have to. You can just be a teacher and just crack on with your job. Or if you really want to drive for these things and push these things and be a subject leader and do this and then maybe work up the ladder and blah, blah, blah. There's just no incentive for it. And the financial incentive is not there.
The whole sector, along with many others, is built on goodwill. Yeah. And if that goodwill was eroded, and do you know what? It's being eroded, which is why we have the retention crisis. I think at the end of this podcast, we might talk a little bit about how to actually fix this, because it kind of links to what we're going to talk about. Yeah. If we actually want to fix it, then that's what we really need to target. The erosion of goodwill is what is breaking this.
We got to talk about how we fix it, because we got rinsed by someone the other day, didn't we? Saying, you're just moaning about the problem though, and you're not telling us how to fix it. And I was like, just a podcast, mate. We're just talking about the problems, Sam. All right, leave us alone. All right, we don't know the answers.
Well, also we do tend to, in actual podcasts, talk about what we could do instead.
I think we try.
So that's the problem with posting short form content. The context. Yeah, the context is gone a lot of the time. Right. Anyway, let's play this jingle. We've had a long chat. We're going to spend the next half of this episode talking about something that we mentioned last week, which I think is a massive bugbear for us too, and it's reinventing the wheel.
I can't wait.
Reinventing the wheel. That's what we're going to talk about this week, because as teachers been in the game for, like we said, almost 10 years each now, and we're still in the game, we are starting to see the reinvention of said wheel. So when we talk in education about the obsession that we have as educators to do something over and over again, what are we actually talking about? What is reinventing the wheel in the terms of education? Why is it a problem? Like, what is the current situation we're in?
In education, reinventing the wheel is when you are planning from scratch every single year for some reason, despite the planning existing for those objectives. Not only just in your school, but perhaps in your county or in your trust, or even just in the country, because we're all kind of teaching the same thing. And it is getting to the point where you're 10 years in, not thinking of anyone in particular here, where you're 10 years in and you're still finding yourself every year just replanning from scratch. And you think, oh my God, I've taught the same year group for 5 years in a row. Why on earth am I still sat there at the weekends? Because let's face it, it's not at school time, is it? At the weekends, planning lessons from scratch for objectives that have been here for 10 years. That's what I'm talking about when I'm mentioning in Reinventing the World. I don't understand why we have got to this state.
Why is that happening then? Why is that a thing? Because, someone might say to you, and we've heard people outside of education multiple times when we've mentioned this, who are in different industries, who say, why?
Yeah.
So what's called? Why don't you just use the old
Just
planning?
for a real quick bit of context, I had someone painting, the never-ending bathroom that we talked about.
Oh, yeah, the never-ending
Someone
bathroom.
painting the ceiling a few weeks ago. And genuinely, we just got into conversation about teaching. And he literally said, can't you just use what you did like last year if you're in the same class, the same year group, teaching the exact same sets? And I was like, yeah, that would be good. I sort of didn't, and I kind of felt embarrassed. I actually felt embarrassed.
Did you have an answer for him?
Not really. And I was like, oh my God, this is why I want to do this episode. So we can like get into the nitty gritty of it all. And I was like, flustered almost. Of like, well, I could sort of, but we can't because we've changed this one thing now. And every year we seem to change something. So this thing's changed, which was messed up the slides. We've got to change it. We've got to like change the way we present it. And our lessons are a bit shorter now actually because we changed that and we changed the structure of our day. And so that we can't use that anymore. And I was a bit flustered thinking, why can't I just use all the stuff I used?
So are there legitimate reasons then to do this? Because you're so I really want you to think about now why. Like, what is this coming from? Because from my point of view, the reason why we feel the need to do this is twofold. One is from the top down in certain schools, something being laid out as to say, right, guys, from now on, we're doing this. I'm afraid that means we're going to have to slightly change how we're doing X, Y, Z.
Yep.
And that is just laid out in front of you. You're told to do it. And that's frustrating. And it can be frustrating, even if it's really well-meaning and we understand it. That kind of reinventing the wheel is like, oh, sorry, we're going back to what we did 5 years ago, which seemed to work well, because in the 4 years when we changed this, actually that didn't work quite well. And when we changed it after 3 years, it did have an impact. So what we want to do is really go for that a bit more. So after the 2 years, we need to make sure we're going to do that a bit more. And then you come back to saying, oh, actually, it's not working. These kids need this.
Can I tell you what I think the two key reasons are?
Yeah, so that's one of them.
Okay.
Was that one of them?
Yeah, it's kind of one of them. Yeah,
What do you think then?
So I think firstly, there is a grass is always greener culture, and it's like to the next level in teaching. Like, it's ridiculous. It is this cyclical culture that you were trying to get at then, where you see teachers that have been doing it for 15, 20 years rolling their eyes in staff meetings, and you sort of ask them why, and they're like, yeah, because we did this 10 years ago, and we did it for 3 years, and then we decided to do this other thing. And I think we have this horrible, and I do think it's toxic, grass is always greener on the other side, sort of culture in teaching where we are gaslighting ourselves into thinking, oh, if we haven't changed something in 3 years, then we are stagnating. That word in teaching is like a proper buzzword, isn't it? All stagnation. We don't want to stagnate. What do you mean stagnate? Have you seen how the curriculum hasn't changed? We don't want to stagnate. Or what, like the curriculum that hasn't changed and has stagnated for 10 years? It's not stagnation, is it? It's just the same curriculum. Like, it doesn't matter.
And also, it's not stagnation because it's new children. I never understand this argument when people say it's a stagnant curriculum. Yeah. Well, it's a new lot of kids doing this lesson. It's not the same children. That would be stagnation, doing the same thing over and over again. You get a new cohort every year. Yeah. So from your point of view as a teacher, of course there's going to be some form of stagnation because you are teaching the same objective 3 times in a row. But for the kids you're in front of, it's brand new for them.
Yeah, they've not seen it.
Yeah, and what you delivered 3 years ago is what you need to deliver last year is what you need to deliver next year.
Yeah, until that curriculum changes, then what do you think? Who do you think you are? I'm better than the curriculum. I need to change it. Our school's better than the curriculum. We need to change it.
Yeah.
I get that there are, and we'll talk about this later, there is a place for change when actually you've identified something that is just terrible. I get it. Like, not every school's perfect and therefore should stay as they are. There are going to be things that are bad. But I just want to go back to this analogy, right? Because I think there's another layer on top of this. Right. On top of this culture of we need to change stuff all the time for some reason, for no reason.
It's got your back up, buddy.
Yeah, really big time. I've been dying to talk about this in this podcast because I think on top of that, we've got another horrible layer that is fueled by this first layer of also there's no money and time in education. So when it does come to making change, it's always rushed and terrible. It's like, not always, as I'm exaggerating, but there's a good chance that a school will identify the need for a change. They don't have the budgets to actually explore it properly and research it properly and get training in and do this and that and spend some time on it. They'll just be like, oh, we might have Ofsted coming next year or the year after, so we need to change this right now. Everyone right now, we need to change this. And the grass is always greener, so we're going to go with that one. That one's better. Look, that's better than what we do right now, isn't it? Because what we do right now is obviously terrible because we've done it for 3 years. So that one over there, that's probably exactly the same. It's new though, isn't it? It's shiny. Ooh, let's do it. The grass is really green. Come on, guys. Everyone do loads of workload. Change it. 3 years later, guess what happens? The exact same process. And then you go to the next scheme. And then you go to the next scheme. And, and eventually, you get back round to realising all of the pros from that first one. Everything has pros and cons. So the pros always look great when you're only focusing on the cons of your current scheme. And you go, oh, the pros of that one look good. And then you've got your teachers rolling their eyes thinking, yeah, they do look good, don't they? Because I remember 20 years ago when we did the same thing. And that's the horrible stagnating, anti-stagnating cyclical cycle of chaotic grass is greener attitude in teaching.
Well, I think that's basically what you're saying there is it's one side versus the other. It's the argument where we're stagnating because we're not changing anything. And there's the argument you're making, which is, but change for change's sake is obviously stupid as well. Because here's the big problem. And you've alluded to this. I'm going to try and summarize it in one hit.
I've vented now. So
that's good. I'm going to try and summarize it in one hit because you alluded to this last week. There is a culture in teaching of snobbery, of turn your nose up at someone who dare suggest that you can use planning you already have. There will always be a few people who be like, what? It's a new cohort? You've got a new set of children? What do you mean you think you could use the same lesson? Of course you can't. And this idea that you can't possibly be a good teacher unless you are tweaking everything about a lesson for the children in front of you. Now, look, don't get me wrong. I think you do have to adapt. It's a huge part of teaching. It's a massive skill to be able to do so. You have to do it, and that's fantastic, right? But there are different ways to adapt. If you have a good lesson, which you've put time into planning once, you can adapt how you deliver the lesson. You can adapt how far through a lesson you get. You can adapt your pace. You can adapt lots of things that don't mean you have to press the delete button on that smart, go from the ground up again and plan from scratch. And that's something that I see a lot of, that I'm at the point in my career right now where if someone was like that to me and a bit snobby and a bit, have you used that before? I would say, yeah.
Yeah, I planned it 4 years ago and I've used it every year since.
Yeah, and do you know what? The kids understand it. Because you know what? It worked 4 years ago with that cohort. This cohort, there are a few more kids with, let's say, rounding. I love going to rounding because I think it's an amazing example of you have to know stuff before you even do it, and then lots of children get stuck on it and some get it really quickly. I think rounding's an amazing example of how it's hard to teach maths sometimes. Yeah. Because, okay, this year, for example, with rounding, let's say there are more children who can't even count in their hundreds. So when I'm rounding to the nearest 100, it's almost pointless me doing that because those kids can't count in hundreds yet. So you need to be able to count in hundreds and know what a multiple of 100 is first. There are also a bunch of kids actually who are really good at it, and they very quickly come round to 100, and you need to think of ways to stretch them. That can change year to year. There can be more children who don't know how to count in hundreds, fewer children who get on quickly. There could be a much larger breadth of children. But if you've planned a lesson well, you don't have to replan it the next year. You just have to have children doing different things. That's where the adaptation comes from for me. Yeah. And I think quality lessons and quality planning, it doesn't have to be reinvented every 4, 5, 6 years just because you think it does. And you've heard this before. I've heard this before. As maths leads, you might say, guys, we're not changing anything this year. Crack on. And it's almost as if people are waiting. Yeah. Because they're indoctrinated to think, well,
if we're not changing anything, we're doing a bad job.
That's bad, isn't it? No,
you all put in tons of work last year. Yeah. Like when we did a lot with maths a couple of years ago.
Yes, over about 2 years.
I mean, there was a lot of change. You know, people did do a lot of work, and they replanned a lot of their lessons and made sure it was up to scratch with White Rose Maths, which I know you'll talk about later because you love it, and so do I. And and then after a couple of years, and we've done it all. It was sort of like, just tweak it. Maybe change some of your starters to suit your current class, but your lessons are fine.
That chunk of time you get to go over stuff, that might change.
Oh, hang on, sorry. The curriculum is exactly the same as it was last year. So all those lessons you planned last year and you're no more upskilled than last year, there's no reason for you to replan them because guess what? You don't know anything more or nothing's changed. So just use them again.
A big thing we're going to come back to it towards the end of this chat is the problem is this attitude has a direct link to the retention problem, workload issues, just piling on. Yeah. And when do you know when teachers feel resentful? It's not when they've got to do work. It's not. And we've talked a lot about this. Teachers know they've got to do work. We understand there's stuff to do outside of the school time. We get our school holidays. We know there's a payoff. We know we have to do a bit more during the weeks that we're in school because that's real life. Get over it. It's a job. When we're resentful is when we look at the sheer amount of stuff we have to do, and 50% of it is pointless.
Yeah, complete waste of time.
And this is what falls into that category. Yeah, this is pointless,
and it's exacerbated by the fact that it's not in directed time. All of that pointless stuff is always outside of directed time, and therefore it's your evenings and weekends where you're doing the pointless stuff, which just makes it feel worse. If it was in directed time, you'd be like, well, I'm on the dollar, baby. Like if this is what they want me to do, then I'm getting paid for this. They're wasting my time. But when it's outside of school,
and that would flip things straight away. If it was in directed time, I would do displays if it was in directed time. Yeah, if they said to me, "You've got your morning out, I want your classroom to have these 5 displays," I'm a worker.
Cool. Yeah, you're paying me.
Yeah, thank you. Brilliant. Of course I do. I don't have to enjoy every second of my job.
No.
But what I do have to do is take control of my own time and not do stuff in my own time that I know is not helping my job.
I think you've captured perfectly what people outside of teaching think about teachers, by the
Right.
way. I think they see, and I don't even blame them, honestly, because at the end of the day, they only get a surface level understanding of teaching, right? I think they see from podcasts like this and other teaching channels that a kind of snobbery of, if my job isn't perfectly satisfyingly enjoyable for me, then I don't want to do it. And I think that's what they see. And what they're not understanding is, no, we're saying we don't want to do it for free. If I'm doing it for free, I at least want to make sure it's useful. Like, that is kind of it, isn't it, really? But people see that snobbery of, no, we all have jobs where we don't want to do stuff. Because most people don't really enjoy their job, or at least don't enjoy a chunk of it. And it's okay, because if we can direct the time, we'll do it, because we're just workers like everybody else. Yeah, sorry to jump in.
No, you're absolutely right. And I just have this vision there of, just turning it back on them and saying, okay, well, if your boss asks you to do something won't help your job on Sunday for 3 hours, would you just be okay with that?
Yeah, of course you would.
Of course you
would.
would
say, no, I'm not doing that, mate. Unless you pay me overtime, then I'll do it. Because if it's on your money, then yeah, sure.
Right, let's have a very quick jingle. We're going to talk about schemes after.
Okay.
Schemes. Hayden, what do you think about schemes?
What's a scheme, Dylan?
Well, a scheme is something that you might buy into as a school, and it's basically seen as almost a shortcut to understanding a subject. And what I mean by that is, we've talked a million times about how as primary school teachers, it is honestly pretty much impossible to be experts at the history curriculum, the geography curriculum, the maths curriculum, the English curriculum.
Yeah.
And as lead in a subject, you might think, I need to help my staff.
Yeah.
And you might buy into a curriculum scheme. So you might buy into a maths scheme or an English scheme.
Sure.
And the idea is that by doing so, you're taking some of the burden off your staff. And you're saying, well, guys, we're in a scheme now. This might have a progression. It might have some resources. It might have some tasks for you to do. Something you can point your staff towards to really reduce their workload.
Are you telling me that the national curriculum for geography at primary school does not already have all of this intrinsic detail in it, seeing as it's a government document for 30,000 schools? Are you telling me that's not true?
What I am telling you is that I think the geography curriculum is 2 sides of A4 with a few bullet points saying, do the Aztecs, please.
Right. So a scheme
that's history, right? Not geography.
Well, we'll ignore that.
do rivers, please, that go through the Aztecs.
In RE. Oh, and I'm flustered.
But it is just 2 sides, yeah.
So scheme kind of fills that gap, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Between the national curriculum, which is extremely vague and basic, to you actually having to deliver 6 lessons in a term. It's kind of like it plugs that gap and it helps you out. Okay.
Yeah, and you know what? Schemes can be unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I've got to say, some schemes can be dreadful.
Go on. I know I've had a vent, right? I know you've been waiting to have a vent about schemes for ages. So can you break down what is it about schemes that can take them on this range of being extremely good and useful, because you clearly think some are, to utterly terrible to the point that it actually offends you because you're getting annoyed.
Yeah. So firstly, what I'm going to say is there are a group of people who get annoyed at schemes for a completely different reason to me. So I'm going to outline that first. Okay. They get annoyed at schemes because they think schemes straight away bad. Because they feel like there should be no one between a teacher and the curriculum. They feel like schemes box people in. They feel like schemes just aren't very helpful for that creative process.
Is it a culture thing again?
It's a culture thing again, because do you know what? Are they wrong? Probably not. But when am I going to bridge that gap and learn this curriculum inside out and understand all these themes that I need to weave into my lessons? I can't do it. I can't do it unless I'm putting hours and hours and hours into history and then geography and then RE and then science. I can't do that. So that's not why I've got this problem with schemes. Sure. My problem with schemes is when you, as a primary school teacher or anyone in school who's looking at a scheme, the breadth is unreal. So my problem is, for a good scheme, it should provide you with lots of stuff, lots of resources, lots of ideas. Some schemes do this really well. Some schemes are dreadful. I'm going to talk about a scheme that does it really well for a second.
Okay.
White Rose Maths, to me, as a scheme that you can buy into, is unbelievably good. And the reason it's unbelievably good is because anything you can think of that you might need to deliver the curriculum is in this one hub.
Okay, let me test you then. I'm a maths teacher. I'm not very confident. I want an overview for the year.
It's there. Okay. So White Rose has that. It's an MTP. And what it also does is every year group has a medium-term plan where it goes through topics in order and small steps to break down how you might deliver in the lesson. But it also ensures progression. because you can go to year 2, year 3, year 4,
Right.
look at multiplication, and you can see that progression there. So as a school leader implementing a scheme, you know that if everyone is just looking at this scheme as a base point, you can ensure that progression.
Okay, brilliant. So I'm happy now. I'm thinking, okay, that's taken a big weight off my chest. I'm now in term 2, and I've got a multiplication unit coming up, and the small steps are telling me I need to do a lesson on factors.
Yeah.
What else does it offer me then at this point? I need to teach it to the kids.
Yes. So there's another document where each small step has 2 to 3 sides of A4 broken down. Each small step. There are hundreds of small steps.
What, like a guidance?
It's a guidance. You can go to it and you can look at it, and it will give you question stems that you could ask as a teacher. It will give you examples you could put on the board. It will give you 5 different representations of how to deliver it. It will explain it with annotations to say, use this to show this, use that to show that.
So I'm feeling confident in the concept now as a teacher, but still I've got to stand there though, and I need something on my smartboard because we use smartboards or PowerPoints or whatever.
Provide slides for every small step.
Okay.
There are slides on there, PowerPoint slides. I think this is amazing. Those people I spoke about a minute ago would look at it and go, "Oh, it's just this is a term people will use. Yeah. It's just a plug in and play curriculum. It's awful. There's no chance for a teacher. There's just such an issue where we can just use what's there." Yes, but you know what? We implemented White Rose because we saw. Do you know what? Planned by specialists.
Yeah.
Amazing stuff. Everything's there. Not one person in our school blindly follows that White Rose progression. White Rose themselves say, we would not expect a school or a class or an individual to just blindly follow all of these and do all of the questions that you're given. What White Rose did was they gave us everything and said, teachers, we trust you. Off you go. Do what you need to do.
Adapt as you need.
Adapt. Supplement. Get stuff out. If your class don't need that, take stuff out of it. But do you know what it did? It saved so much time because it gave you everything you needed. You weren't working from scratch. Adapting what's there as a teacher, that's the skill you need to do. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about adaptation. Adaptation does not have to be starting from scratch all the time. Oh, we couldn't possibly use a scheme because how can you, the children in front of you, they might need something that isn't on the scheme. Yeah, you put it in.
Yeah.
Honestly, going back to rounding, what more could a child need because they're from a different county than someone else?
To our county.
Yeah. Oh, wait, have you taken into account the background factors of these children? I'm rounding to the nearest 100.
Dylan, children in Essex, they learn to round in a different language to us. It's like, no, there's nothing, there's no
Don't
difference.
you know there was an Anglo-Saxon burial site recently down the road? We've got to implement that into our rounding to 100. No, you don't. No, you don't. It's just rounding to 100.
Yeah. Do you know what? There is probably a best way to teach rounding in general. Whatever that way is, I don't know.
Yeah.
And it would be acceptable to do that.
Yeah, but that's why White Rose is really powerful, I think, because it will show you how extracting the skills to counting in hundreds. It will have a list of stuff that your children should be able to do already. Okay. And that's where you can do your adaptation.
Well, let me play devil's advocate then. Our school, it's been successful in our school. And I think that maybe is down to the fact that we've got one, really good teachers anyway. And that's just pot luck. We don't choose who we work with. And 2, I think we did put a lot of training in to really encourage that variation and adaptation.
Yeah.
Are there schools in the country that, if provided with a scheme like White Rose, would just follow it blindly to the detriment of the children?
Yeah, there are. And this is the argument against that. So I want to really break this down now, because now I'm going to talk about schemes that are bad, in my opinion. There are lots of schemes out there. I'm not going to name any names, but I'm sure if you're a teacher working in a school, you at some point would have picked up a scheme and been like, where's the stuff? What? I don't have anything.
Doing 1% of the work for
what? That's not helping me at all. And a lot of schemes are honestly glorified medium-term plans. And they'll just take from the curriculum what's already threadbare and say, well, year 4, you need to do Romans. Here are 9 lesson objectives for the Romans. Have fun.
Maybe some like ideas.
A couple of ideas, maybe. Well, perhaps you could do this or that. Okay, do you have that task for me then? No. Okay, do you have some, basic slides then I could work through? Because, if I'm just comparing 2 Roman emperors to maybe a modern day leader, surely that's quite a basic that, you can provide me with that information. No, we can't provide you with that information.
Why not?
What we want to do at this scheme is we want to give teachers the power to plan as they need for their children. We don't want to plug and play. Are you saying you don't want to do the work? No.
Yeah. Do you think that's what it is? Do you honestly think, how much do you think they believe that?
Yeah.
That the idea that we are just encouraging teachers to not think about their lessons and just deliver blindly. And how much do you think of it is a load of work for us as a company to provide those lesson slides?
Honestly, when you see the comparisons with like White Rose, for example, I think don't do a scheme if you can't be asked to put this actual work into providing the stuff for the scheme. If your scheme is honestly a glorified MTP, with some information, but you've got to go and supplement that, make up all of your own tasks, make up all of your own slides.
Yeah.
Honestly, what you're buying there is just how to like lesson objectives.
Yeah.
And it frustrates me because I think that there's in both methods here of a really detailed scheme that gives you everything, think White Rose, to a different kind of scheme, think of almost any scheme that you've seen, honestly, where it's just very threadbare and you end up having to do hours and hours of work anyway, and you might as well have done it from scratch. The negative about that one is huge amounts of workload for the teacher. The negative for the White Rose one is it's a bit plug and play. People might just blindly take it through and it might not be exactly what the children need. Okay, pick one. Pick one. If you're really serious about solving this crisis we have in schools, actually looking at the retention problems and how horrendous it is, pick one that you think's easier to fix, okay, as a school.
Yeah.
Is the one where your staff have got to go away and build from scratch a whole curriculum anyway, even though you bought in a scheme?
Yeah.
Is that more detrimental?
Because you don't want the people to
do a plug and play.
Risk of people
couldn't possibly
risk themselves because they're not
possibly risk that.
Okay,
No.
even though we're useful for something, we don't want to risk that.
No, don't risk that. Or you have to implement a bit of training, which is to say, here you go, trusted professional teachers. Here's everything you might possibly need for your curriculum. Can you just make sure when you're actually using it that you just adapt slightly, supplement, tweak? What's easier and better to do? It's obvious to give your professional teachers everything they might possibly need and to teach them how to then adapt it if they don't know how to.
Trust is gone, isn't it? I agree. That last bit is really important. As a good SLT, good leadership team, it's kind of down to you. Do you know what? If you're a leadership team and you get in a scheme and then you get really annoyed a couple of years later because you think, do you know what? The teachers they're not putting much time into adapting this stuff. They're just picking it up and using it as it is. And actually it's now not that effective because they're doing that. That's on you. It's actually not on the teachers.
If you've done nothing.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
If you've done nothing. If you've just gone, oh, there you go, there's the stuff, change it though. To put in some training then. So say to our staff, hey, we've identified an issue. This is the issue. We think this scheme could be really useful, but we're not using it properly. And we're not using it properly because too many of us are just picking it up and using it exactly as it is. And it doesn't work with this cohort you've got right now. Because this and this reason. So here's how we can use it. Not the grass is greener now over there because I've identified one con of this. So now we're going to use this other scheme where it's all different objectives and you've got to plan it from scratch. It gives you some task ideas, but you've got to do it because that way I can ensure then that you now know exactly what's in that and you're planning it for your class. Yeah. It's not the right way. And do you know what the similarity, when you were talking then, it just reminded me, I think we've done this analogy 2 times in episodes in the past where we've gone back to this whole mindset, right, of, and it's very political. It's like, there's like the Tory Labour, when it was in like vote time and we were talking all politics. It was that whole mindset of like having schemes in across the country that benefit people, the benefit system, where it's like, okay, some people might be taking the mick and abusing the system. So is it worth scrapping the whole system to spite those few people that are abusing it, but then punishing the 99% of people that actually it was benefiting? Or do you just keep the benefit system there and knowing that actually there's a few little problems we can try and tackle? That to me is the same thing. It's like, yes, go with the scheme that gives your teachers everything and just be aware that there is a possibility that some teachers might abuse it and then not actually deliver very good lessons at all, and try and tackle that issue. Don't do it the other way around of, I'll get rid of that issue. I'll get rid of that issue full stop. Punish everybody else. Do you know what I mean?
We're going back to planning from scratch, guys, because some people are taking the mick out of this White Rose slide.
Yeah.
Nah.
It's like, no. So I think I agree that I think schemes should provide lesson slides and tasks that you can adapt and choose to use or not, but it should be there. If it's a scheme that doesn't have that, it's not a very good scheme.
And I think what winds me up slightly is I've seen previously people who run these schemes toe that line of, well, we don't want to do a plug-in. You know, we talked about it. Okay. Stop. Come on. Be real. Be real. You're a teacher, or have been, I assume, if you're doing a scheme. Be realistic for 1 second. Would you have just done plug and play? No, probably not, because you're probably a good teacher. If you're thinking about building a scheme and you have all these ideas in place, you're probably a good teacher. You wouldn't have just done plug and play. Yeah. Just when you've got a scheme like White Rose, okay, and I've seen White Rose as a scheme and I've seen other schemes, it just pales in comparison, and it makes me frustrated at other schemes. And it is a dual-edged sword, like you said. The people who are in charge. Here's what I wanted to say as well. Well, I'm talking about how good White Rose is. Okay. I also don't necessarily think just if a scheme is detailed and has lots of stuff, I don't necessarily think it's automatically good as well. The reason I think White Rose is good is because it's planned by experts. It's got so much variety. It's rich in its explanations.
And it is literally good.
It is really
like
good.
We've actually
think about Oak Academy, the national thing,
where
there's lots of resources online, lesson videos, very detailed, a huge breadth of stuff. I don't think that's as good. No. I don't think that you could sit and just play a video and have a nice progression. I don't think it has everything.
No.
I think White Rose has everything. And that's why it works really well.
A lot of people don't like White Rose, though.
No.
I see online a lot in teacher groups that they don't like White Rose.
Do you find, and I find this, maybe I'm wrong, and I'd love to hear what people think if they've got legitimate concerns about stuff like this. I find with White Rose, people's frustration is they'll say that they're annoyed that they can't plug in and play.
Yeah, I was about to say
So that they're frustrated that, this sheet isn't suitable for my class. They can't do all of these questions. And I'm just like, exactly, this is where... It needs to be the onus on the teacher then.
They've given you something. They've given you ideas of the... Like, quite often when I plan from White Rose, and I have done in the last... God knows how long, a long time. I will look at I will use their PowerPoint slides, right? And I might take bits from it that I think, I'm going to show my kids that because I've got maybe a high group this year and I don't really need some of this other stuff. I'm going to take this part though because that saves me some time. I'll look at the worksheet that comes with it as well. And again, what I'll mainly do from it is get ideas of how to present questions in different ways. And I might be like, I love number 4, 5, and 6, and I kind of just want my class to do a lot of that. So I'm going to take 4, 5, and 6, and I'm just going to write a couple more like it. And it's going to take me no time because a lot of the time in maths, it's thinking of the question idea, like how to present the question, that's the problem. And I'm like, cool, I'm just going to take 4, 5, and 6, I'm going to snip them onto a thing, and I'm just going to write a few more like that. And that's going to be my little task for today because that's kind of where I want them to go. So I've adapted it, but it saved me so much thinking time and also done some of the groundwork for me. In the best case scenario, I'll look at an objective and be like, oh, this is spot on. This is pitched bang on for my class this year. I'm going to use it as it is right now.
Yep. And you've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what I wanted to say basically was, do you know what? That last 5% is on the teachers. And I would love to hear someone speaking about, especially White Rose, because I do love White Rose. I'm a big advocate for White Rose. I think it's fantastic as maths leads. I'd love to hear someone talking about it in a way where I couldn't convince them within 10 minutes that it's then down to you as the teacher. If you want a plug in and play curriculum, you're going to have to put up with the negative sides of that, which is exactly what you just said. Your kids will not be able to access some questions. There'll be some children stuck, other children whizzing through. That's where your skill as the teacher comes in. That's where, like we said earlier, we're not afraid of doing work. That's a bit of work that we obviously have to do to be good teachers.
Do you know what the irony of this whole thing is, though? Because I know you'll have heard of this as well. I have heard of so many schools, right, where they're so afraid of teachers doing things the wrong way, right, that they buy in a scheme that is kind of plug and play, and then they're extremely strict and say you need to follow the scheme exactly as it is because they're afraid that if people don't follow the scheme, they're going to go off and start doing things that are a bit crap. And then the irony is schemes like White Rose then become not that effective because you've got all these teachers following it exactly as it is because they've been told, no, my school will get cross at me if I don't do the true or false slide because this is what they've decided. I have to do the true or false slide, then I have to do the PowerPoints,
flashback
then
floor.
I have to give them this thing, and then at the end I do the flashback floor as a plenary. If I don't do that, I get marked down at my school, so I have to follow that. And I don't think it works very well. And they're starting to then say White Rose is rubbish. And I'm like, whoa, no, you've missed the point there.
And White Rose themselves say don't do that.
I know.
I've been to their training. I've been in the room. I went to training in London and we talked about adapting. The whole thing was about adapting tasks. And the theme was, we would never expect you just to use this. But you know what? We've given you all of this stuff. It can be overwhelming, but what would you rather? Would you rather be slightly overwhelmed, have some training and get better at doing something,
save
or
time,
have nothing?
Yeah. Just go off the curriculum and maybe some glorified medium-term plan.
I suppose to finish off with this discussion, the point I suppose I'm making here is, are we really genuinely serious about trying to solve the teaching crisis at the minute? Do we actually want to stop teachers leaving in droves? Because it's so easy to look at these big ideas, these huge institutions that we have where basically from the top down, they're saying, you can't do this, you can't do that. These ideas that are entrenched in our brains that you are a bad teacher if, and then that if means you not going above and beyond and doing hours and hours of stuff. The only way we're actually going to solve this teacher crisis is if we completely uproot that from the ground up. These little things quite clearly that are coming out, these workload reduction task force stuff, this little stuff over the years that we've heard, it's clearly not having an effect. It's clearly not having an effect to say, you don't need to do displays. How many thousands of people do we still get messages saying, we've been asked to do a display because governors are coming around later, since we've even told them that they don't have to do it anymore? It's not being implemented properly. And you know what? It's small fry. Because even if that person didn't have to spend 20 minutes doing that display, which they shouldn't have to, do you know what? They're actually at a place where they've got to go home and plan from scratch. And that's the big thing.
It's going to take time. I think the culture is in a really bad place. You know, the teaching culture is a very strong culture, very well known culture in education. You know what the meta culture is at the time. Do you know what I mean? And I just think it's going to take a really, really long time because it's not changing, and all these things are coming out, and it doesn't feel any different yet. I think it will just take some time. But the problem is with teaching and the way it works is it's got to be a top down approach. It has to be, and you can be at the bottom like we are. You know, we're just class teachers. We can be there screaming as much as we want. But until SLT get on board
as a whole,
and really trickle down trickle it down, whatever it is, change the culture, nothing will change.
And actively go to someone and say, do not do this. Don't just kind of skim past like, no, I know these guys are doing 6 hours at the weekend, but if I don't mention it and they don't mention it, well, it's all good. No, be active. Be active about it. Tell them they don't have to do this thing. Tell them they don't have to worry because then next week, I've had horror stories, right? Of honestly, maths planning from a scheme. So teachers are planning from a scheme that was brought in, not White Rose, different scheme. They've got to plan for their mixed ability classes, and they're in a school where there's more than one form entry. So there's 2, 3, 4 classes they can share between. And they have been directly told they are not allowed to share planning. They are not allowed to look at this scheme, pick it up, plan for it from scratch, by the way, because there's no slides. And then they're not allowed to share that with their colleagues who could then just tweak it. No. You've got to do your own planning because it's for your own kids.
Mad.
It's mixed. Guys, it's rounding to 10. Get over it, okay? Get over it. There are 95% of objectives that do not need you to plan from scratch. You can just adapt and tweak.
Things that already exist. Yeah.
Hayden, I want to play a quick game with you to finish off.
Okay.
So we're going to play the jingle.
Love a game.
One last jingle. We're going to play a game. I want people who are listening to play along. See if you can beat Hayden. My thoughts? You will be able to beat Hayden.
Me too.
Quick game then, before we finish. Everyone, I want you to play along at home. Context. I've been obsessed with Only Connect. Okay, it's a BBC Two game show. Used to be on BBC Four, hosted by Victoria Cora Mitchell. And the idea is it's groups of 4 things that are connected. That's why it's called Only Connect.
Connect 4. Got you.
Not quite Connect 4 now. Okay. But the show itself is incredibly hard. It's really like it's one of them shows where if you get like 2 questions in the whole episode, you're pleased with yourself.
It sounds like a bit of you.
Yeah, but I've stripped it back for you,
Mr. Quizman. Oh, thank you.
So I'm going to give you 2 rounds. Okay, the first round is connection. Sure. So in this first round, I'm going to read to you one at a time something. And you have to find out what the connection is. Okay. If you get it after 1 clue, you get 5 points. So you get 1 clue and be like, oh, I think I know what this connection is.
That's mad. Yeah.
And have a prediction. It's really hard to get 5 points.
Yeah.
After 2, you get 3 points. After 3, you get 2 points. And then if you have to have all 4 and you get the connection, you get a point.
Okay.
The only issue is you can't just randomly guess and then keep guessing.
Right, I get 1?
You've got 1 guess and you've got to decide whether you want the next clue or if you want to have a guess.
Okay.
And if you want to have a guess, you lock it in with me and then write it down, keep it in your head.
Okay.
And then we'll carry on for the people at home.
So I need to write this down?
No, you can do it in your head. But write it down. For the people listening who can't see that you don't have a pen, just pretend you've written it down. But you won't lie. Yes. Okay, so here we go.
Right.
And by the way, I have like fostered it so it's like education.
Okay. So I'm not going to shout out the answer.
No. You're going to say next clue or lock in. And I'll keep going for people at home anyway.
Yeah. I will write it down. I haven't got a pen.
No, it's fine.
Let's go.
Anyway, ready?
Yeah.
What's the link between these 4 apparently random clues? Here's the first one. P.
Next clue.
Okay, now for 3 points. Musk. So you've got P, Musk.
Next clue.
Third one. Mats. You've got P, Musk, Mats. 2 points if you get the connection now.
Is it
people at home might be shouting?
Education related, did you say?
I told you everything before.
Okay, P, Musk, Mats. Next clue.
Okay, fourth and final clue. Hi, Tory.
Hi, Tory. I have no clue what you are talking about.
One last time, all four. What's
Okay.
the connection? P, Musk, Mats, Hi, Tory.
No clue. Absolutely no, I can't.
Do you want to have a guess?
All I can think. The problem is with my brain.
Go
Right?
on.
You said Musk, so all I can think of is Elon Musk.
Okay, but
And I can't think of anything.
I've not
else
told
now.
you the spelling. If it's, this is a reel, by the way, you'll have the spelling. I've not told you the spelling
No, but there's
of Musk.
no. Yeah,
Okay.
but that's what I can think.
Given
of.
up?
So, yep.
0 points. Well done at home if you got this. The link is they are all subjects with one letter removed. P is PE. Musk is music. Mats is maths. Hi, Tory is history.
Oh my days. That's a really good game.
That was good, wasn't it?
Yeah. That's one of those things where I feel like if I saw them written down,
Yeah,
maybe would have had
I
a chance.
purposely didn't, and I was like, I'm not going to tell you because if I say, oh, by the way, the spelling of this, you will automatically think of that as important.
Yeah, Musk.
So I left it. But even
That's
in
good.
saying it,
I
that's
love
good.
that. That was a really cool question.
Okay, next one. This one is now what would be round 2 in the show. And it's the same thing. So there's a connection
I'm
here. There's a connection here between these 4 things.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell you the 4th one.
Okay.
You need to tell me what the 4th one would be
so it goes
because
to-
this is a sequence now.
Right,
So you have to figure out, they're linked, but what's the sequence? They're coming in
so what's
order
the
of
next
something.
thing in this
So for this one, 5 points if you get it after 1, 3 points if you get it after
Wow.
2,
Okay.
2 points if you get it after 3, and then there is no chance for 1 point because you are going to tell me the last
Yeah,
one.
cool.
So I don't want to hear the link anymore. I want to hear what would come 4th in this sequence. The first one, James Cleverly.
Okay. Next clue.
Second, Kit Malthouse.
Next clue.
I think you're going to get it now, everyone at home if they haven't already.
Okay.
Number 3, Gillian Keegan.
Oh. And I've got to get the next one, right?
At any point, you've got to tell me what would come 4th in this sequence.
What's her name? Is it Bridget Phillips?
Yes,
Yeah,
2
yeah.
points.
I can't remember
Well
her name then. I
done.
was like, oh, what's her name?
What was the sequence?
It was Education Secretary.
Education Secretary in order.
Yeah.
And
Do you know, I didn't recognise the second one.
well, but because honestly, if you look at the graph,
Yeah.
you had 4 in a row who honestly did it
Yeah.
for 2 months.
Right.
Nadeem Zahawi was before James Cleverly.
Oh, okay.
And they did it for so long. Do you know when
Yeah.
Boris resigned and then Truss came in and then Truss
they were
resigned?
just nobody,
They had
basically.
different.
Oh, yeah, because I
ones all the
recognised
time.
James, and I couldn't think who he was. I was
Yeah.
like, James Clever, I know that name.
Because I
Why
think
do know that
he
name?
was the foreign secretary before
Right.
for
Maybe
the
that's why I knew
Tories.
his name.
So he's done a lot of big jobs. He's
Yeah.
currently going for the leadership.
Who was the second person?
Kit Malthouse. Kit Malthouse. Do you know what? I didn't know that.
He contributed a lot to this.
I don't know if it's he or she.
Can you imagine if
I don't
he or
know.
she did?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, true.
But it was tiny. It was weeks or months, no
Fair
time
play.
at all.
Fair
So I thought that was a good one. And then when
was really
Gillian
cool.
came up, I was like, come on, you got it.
That's a good game. That is a really good game. That is such a you game.
Yeah, I
that
love
is
it
so your
much.
brain. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
It's like quiz, but also links and what comes
yeah.
next. But anyway, well done at home. If you beat Hayden, let me know how many points
I'm
you got.
sure you did.
Hayden, you got 2 points.
I got 2 points.
Out of a possible 10.
That's not bad, is
But
it?
I don't know if anyone would have got any of them after one.
Simplifies to 1/5.
Well done. Right, we're going to finish up there.
Yeah.
Hayden, anything else to say before we sign off?
No, let's rant again next week, shall we?
Well, I was hoping you would say something about maybe giving us a review or following us on Instagram.
Oh, hang on. That's what you normally do. Ready? So,
Yeah, go on.
hang on.
Yes.
I'll say it.
Let's try again.
But they don't know yet. So
Okay, go on.
ask me again.
Hayden, anything you want to, for the first time ever, I'm asking you, just in this episode,
Yeah.
anything else you wanted to say perhaps before the end of the episode?
I'm looking forward to a rant next week.
Guys, follow us on Instagram, join the crew at Teach Sleep Repeat Podcast. We're doing that thing where we lean forward
Yeah, this is a
towards the
staple-
camera
staple
because we
ending
know
now.
the episode is ending. Give us a review. We're nearly at 100 on Spotify. We might already be there. I don't know.
Dunno.
But help us out, guys. It really does go a long way. See you next
See you
time.
next time.